All right, welcome everyone to week 3 of DES 114, Print Production Color Theory. I do apologize, I had to change the time of our live session this evening. I had a personal matter that came up during the day, and it was just, I was worried that it might run a bit late, and it actually did. So just to be on the safe side, I decided to push our live session to this evening. We have a lot of stuff to go over this week. Also, your grades are in for week 2. Please make sure that you're going over the feedback. I gave, especially in the assessment, there's a checklist for things that I was looking for. And I can actually open up just a checklist and we can take a quick look at that so that way you know what to look for in your grading. All right, so we were making sure that the logo that you colorized in the assignment is there. Your images needed to be CMYK, not RGB. There had to be a bleed set up in your images or something needed to extend to the bleed. I double checked over some font choices, the body copy, went over where the call to action was and whether or not it was standing out. And then you needed to have a packaged InDesign file, and your PDF also needed to have a the crop and bleed marks present. So those were the things that I was looking for and kind of giving you a checklist for this week. I'll do the same for week 3 as well for the assignment and assessment. I think it's a little bit easier so that way people can kind of go through and say, oh, all right, that's where I lost points, that, you know, this was missing. So just make sure that you're reading over all of my comments. And yeah, that's about it for week 2. So the grades are in. If you submitted something later this, later this morning into this afternoon, I may not have gotten in to grade it yet. If you do have any outstanding work, please make sure you're getting that in because we're in week 3, so we're on the second half of our mod, and I just don't want to see anyone falling too far behind. And if you do have any questions or concerns, you can always shoot me an email. Again, my telephone hours are roughly Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. Mountain Time to 4 p.m. Mountain Time, but you can email me anytime. Just be aware that I am located in Eastern Standard Time Zone, so just be aware of the time zone change when you're trying to reach me. And our agenda for today, I'm going to go over a couple of announcements. I'm going to get really, really in-depth into the assignment this week. I also am going to share my slides in the announcements like I do every single week. And there's a whole set of slides on the print production process that you guys can go over that you can read on your own. And then for week 4, again, this always has to do with time, but I'm going to do a critique of the work that you guys have done so far. So it'll be kind of like a show and tell in week 4. Now, as far as due dates, the assignments and assessments are due Saturday at midnight for full credit. Again, communication regarding late work is key in this course. That's going to save you missed points. Just make sure you're sending me an email and letting me know what's going on. The week 4 assignments cannot be turned in late. If anything happens when you are uploading your assignment for week 4 and it doesn't go through, you're not sure if it went through, send me an email with the file so that way I have it when I get up to grade on Sunday morning of week 4. Because remember, the course, it'll lock you out at midnight. Don't wait to upload. Also, we have a discussion post this week. Your original post is due Wednesday at midnight. And don't forget to respond to 2 of your fellow students by Saturday. That's where I'm seeing most people are missing their points is because they're not responding to 2 of their fellow students. Also, if you have not submitted your discussion for week 2, the deadline to submit that late is this Saturday. And if you missed week 1, that deadline has already, the extended deadline has already come and gone. Also, next week, which is week 4, if you planned on redoing any of your assignments or assessments for a higher grade, remember you get 1 resubmission. Those are due by Tuesday of week 4. Any resubmissions after Tuesday will not be graded. That is a hard deadline. And weeks 1 and 2, if you are missing any assignments or assessments, those will close out on the last Friday of the course, so the Friday of week 4. And if you missed, if you missed the work for week 1 and 2, and let's say that you submit that on Tuesday, but I don't get to grade it until Wednesday, you don't get a resubmission because you waited too long. You already missed the deadline and you missed the redo deadline. So unfortunately, that's kind of how the cookie crumbles when you're missing deadlines. All right, so next week we'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming, and our live session will be Monday from 10 to 12 p.m. Mountain Time. Our multi-session will be tomorrow from 10 to 2 p.m. And again, this gives you some ample time during the week to get those assignments done. If you do need any outside help, the Student Success Center is open with tutoring available and no appointment is necessary. And kind of a good segue to go in. So Wednesday for Halloween, the Student Success Center is actually going to close at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. So people who work can get out, go bring their kids trick-or-treating and, enjoy the evening, with their families. So if you are in need of tutoring, please be aware of that the Student Success Center is going to close at 5 o'clock that day. They'll go back to the normal hours the following day. All right, let's take a look at some of our announcements in the course. And already did that one. Yeah. And the rest you guys can read on your own. So some tips for a successful week 3. Again, don't forget about the readings and videos for this week. Let's take a look and see what we have. That's in our readings and videos tab on our homepage. And we'll scroll down to week 3. So we do have our first our required lecture 1. It's a YouTube video. It's 1 hour and 26 minutes. Then there is a chapter in our textbook, which is on real-world print production with Adobe Creative Cloud. So it goes over trimming and binding and finishing, and then identifying and applying correct resolution for print output, setting up margins and gutters and bleeds. And then we also have some videos in the lynda.com portal on graphics, comparing raster versus vector images, some Photoshop basics, and some InDesign layout basics. So one thing, you should have already upgraded your Adobe Creative Cloud. CC 2019 is here. Some of you I might have noticed in your submissions for the assignment might not have upgraded. And if I noticed that, I tried to point it out to you. Because something weird had happened in one of the last updates for Illustrator for 2018, and it started making PDFs, and I only ever notice it when I teach this course, but and I only ever notice it during week 2, but they were making PDFs and converting the Pantone colors to CMYK in the PDF, which is not really helpful when I need to check your files to make sure that the Pantone colors are there. And it was super annoying because normally in Acrobat I can just open up the output preview and it shows me your Pantone colors and it shows me where they're applied, and it's an easy way for me to see that you've met the requirements of the assignment. However, in that upgrade for 2018, some weird glitch happened and it started converting them. So every single assignment, I would have to drag the PDF into Illustrator and kind of tear the whole PDF apart to make sure that the Pantone colors were there. So another 10 steps because of Adobe, but they did fix it and it's working again in 2019, so hooray. So please make sure, though, that was one of the ways I was able to tell who hadn't upgraded to 2019 was the Pantones didn't show up, and I double checked everybody's files where they didn't show up just to make sure that they were in there in Illustrator, and they will show up in Illustrator if you've done them in 2018. It's just another process I have to do. But to upgrade, you need to go up into your Creative Cloud, and one of the things that it is going to do is you're going to have to remove the icons from your dock. If you put the icons in your dock like I do, you'll have to kind of take the 2018 ones out and replace them with the 2019s. And yes, it does take a lot of space to do the upgrade. So if you haven't yet, I would, I highly recommend purchasing a external hard drive or purchasing cloud storage such as Dropbox, and getting, our graphic design files, they take up a lot of space, and putting those files not only for backup, because if something ever happens to your machine, you're going to lose your files. If you have to ever, if you ever have to send your machine into IT to have it fixed, they're going to wipe your machine clean. So you really need to have a system of backing up your files. I currently have Dropbox on my machine, and I also have an external hard drive, which gives me some added space. I have a MacBook, and it's actually a 2013, early 2013 MacBook. That still runs fine, but I had to free up some space, and that's the way that I did. And that's always a common issue in graphic design, is our files are large, and we need to be proactive and buy storage elsewhere. So I would try to get an external hard drive, or Dropbox. You can pay for by the year, and then you can access your files anywhere. I have both, and it's really worth it to me. And I can tell you from experience, I have lost computers in the past, and I lost 2 computers, and luckily, everything had been syncing to Dropbox, so I did not lose my files. I lost the computer themselves, the hard drives were fried, everything, but I had my files because I always kept my files on Dropbox. So kind of a plug for them, but they're worth their weight in gold. And you're gonna have to upgrade. That's one of those things. You can't put that off. You're gonna have to upgrade. So I would try to, look at what option works best for you, but that's definitely one of those things that you're gonna have to do. So that's our readings and videos for this week. Also, if you do need some extra help with your discussion posts or anything, make sure that you're visiting the Writing Center. If you want to come to our live session or find the recorded session, you can find it in 2 places, in the live session tab and in the announcements. And if for last week it didn't save in the live session tab, and I don't really know why, but it was in the announcements. So make sure that you're always reading the announcements for the course. But if you see that something didn't show up, one student finally did alert me, but just let me know so I can go in there. Canvas has been having like a bunch of updates, and sometimes things get a little bit glitchy. If you do need some extra help, again, visit the Student Success Center. If you need some help with your computer, you can visit computer support. Don't forget to take those daily checkpoints every day. They really add up. They're part of your requirement. They're about 13% of your grade. I have seen students lose an entire letter grade because they aren't doing the daily checkpoints, and I've seen students get bumped up a letter grade because they always did do the daily checkpoints. So they really can, really do affect your grade. Also, again, that reminder, redos are due Tuesday of next week at midnight, and late work is due Friday of next week, unless you make special arrangements with me. That means that you will need to email me. I will give you a Dropbox link and you will be able to upload your week 1 and your week 2 work to that Dropbox link. That is the only way that you will be able to submit it to me on Saturday, the last day of the course. Adobe Help is offered on Friday from 10 to 12 p.m. with Sean. So if you do need some help trying to get that upgrade to work or anything like that, please go in on Friday and meet with Sean. He can definitely help you out. So here are our Wanda Bryant. She's our learning coach. Here's her hours for this week. So she's off today. She has hours on Tuesday and Thursday from 5 to 9 p.m., Friday from 12 to 5 p.m., and Saturday from 11 to 4 p.m. But again, if you go into the Student Success Center anytime that they are open and have hours, there should be somebody there who can help you out in this course. So that is a good thing. You're not kind of stuck to only being able to meet with Wanda. Most of the learning coaches in there will be able to help you out, which is a good thing. And let's hop on back into our slideshow. So again, I have a whole bunch of slides on the printing process that I just wanted to share with you. I just thought it was really good information. And again, you can read this over on your own. It kind of goes over what the pagination is, the imposition, signatures, how things are trimmed, the difference between that PDF size and the trim size, binding, how that works, different types of folding. And you'll notice that I have this one circled because that's what we're going to do this week. They call it, right here, they call it a standard gatefold. I have always called it the barrel fold, but, again, different people, different terminology. A little bit about paper, the different weights, softwares and files, what everything does. And again, you can read all of this over on your own. We're going to delve right into this week because I feel like there is just a lot going on this week. So let's take a look at our discussion post for this week. We're talking about vector and raster files, the difference between the two. So it's really important to understand what vector and raster images are, not only as it relates to using the right type of file for the task, but also related to scaling and resolution issues that can be caused when outputting them for digital or for offset printing. As designers, we must be able to articulate to a client why several different types file types are necessary for different platforms, output devices, and media. So vector art, that's what you are creating in Illustrator. Illustrator creates vector art. It's resolution independent, while raster art, something that you create in Photoshop or in Image, that is resolution dependent. So again, vector art created in Illustrator, where each and every line, curve and solid, they're plotted on an XY coordinate grid, and that grid can be resized up or down to any dimension, and the artwork will always come out perfectly. So you never end up with low-res artwork when you create something vector. By contrast, raster art's pixel-based, meaning each pixel has a particular size and color based on resolution and pixel depth. So photographs, raster art. When it comes to resizing, when we shrink raster art, it becomes clearer, but when we enlarge raster art, it becomes fuzzy, and we call it low resolution. So when a piece of raster art has been enlarged too much, you actually see the edges of the pixels, and it starts to look like stairs or zigzags on the edge of the subject matter. Another important factor is that we can easily change vector art to any size of raster art that we want, but we can't go the other way. So imagine trying to draw a photograph. You take a picture of your dog, let's say, with your camera, and then you wanted to bring that into Illustrator and turn it into a vector illustration, articulating every color change and shade. That would be extremely, it can be done. I can show you some examples, and I actually will, because I have some cool examples of that to show you, but it's a lot of work. So that's why we have both types of files. And it's for this reason that two things are important to keep in mind while you're working in the field. when you're doing a logo for a client, always, always, always create it in Illustrator. From the vector art, you can go anywhere and do anything. When you're purchasing photographs from a client, you know, from images.com or any of those stock art websites, you want to purchase the highest resolution possible, because you can always take the resolution out, but you can't put the resolution back in. Another important discernment that graphic designers must be able to articulate relates to the different color spaces that we work in and how the ranges of colors available within them. Our eyes can see millions of colors, but computer screens and inks, they can only recreate a relative few. The technology and study of these color ranges is called gamut. And at the end of this little discussion here, there is a short video that will help you to understand what color gamuts are and how they work. So make sure that you are watching that on your own. So here's our prompt for this week. Imagine that you've just landed a great design job and the client would like you to produce a billboard for his company. So think of how big a billboard is. Then he also wants you to produce a brochure, kind of like the one that we're creating this week. And then also some promotional items such as embroidered hats and jackets. The company has a logo that they've been using for years and they're sticking with their current brand. So they don't want their logo redesigned. I think that this is where people get a little confused with this discussion question. They don't want their logo redesigned. They want to stick with their current logo. However, the client told you to go to their website and grab the logo from their homepage, saying, that's where other people have gotten it from in the past, and it's the only logo that exists. I'm just going to pause right here and say to you, this will happen to you probably 8 out of 10 times when you work with a client. They will say to you, oh yeah, just go to my website, my logo's there. And you'll say, well, I really need the high-res vector version of your logo, you know, because you're thinking, I need to have the high-res version. And 8 out of 10 times they'll say, yeah, it's on my website, because they don't know what that is. That's what we're here for. So for your initial post, I want you to address the following questions. Number 1, will that logo work for all the projects that you've been hired to do? The billboard, the brochure, the hats, the embroidered hats and jackets. Will it work? Yes or no? Why or why not? But you need to tell me why or why not it will or won't work. How are you going to explain this dilemma to your client? And number 3, how does that color gamut that we were just talking about, where you're going to watch that video, how does that figure into all of this? And here's something else. How are you going to fix it for your client? When you're explaining the dilemma to your client, let's say that you say it can't work. That's all well and good, but how are you going to come up with a solution then? What is the solution? What are you going to do to fix it for them? Because they're coming to you to fix a problem. So it's best to come up with the solution to the problem you are now telling them that they have. So for your citation this week, you might use articles that describe the difference between vector and raster artwork, or the difference between print and web resolution, or even articles that discuss what's the best file type for which job. When you're looking at your fellow students' discussion posts, consider addressing which points that they made that came across well, and which ones, when you're reading your fellow students' posts, pretend that you're the client, not another graphic designer. So which points might need a further explanation for their client? You know, what might help them to clarify their points? And can you help them expand their explanation? You know, maybe you can share some resources that you found helpful while you were researching this discussion. So again, your initial reply post should work to develop a group understanding of this topic, challenge each other, build on each other, always be respectful, but discuss this and figure it out together. So again, really, really career and graphic design, dilemmas that you are going to see out in the field, really relevant stuff this mod. I think that DES 114 is one of my favorite courses to teach. And it's because every single thing that we do is so relevant to being a graphic designer. I've been doing this for 20 years. Every single project that we do, I have done multiple times. Every single discussion that we have where we're really working out these problems, these are problems that you're going to run into. That's why I love this course. I think that it's so relevant to when you get out there in the field. All right, so our assignment for week 3. We're going to be creating a campaign component this week, which is our brochure. So I'll go over the background of this, and then I'm gonna kind of turn on my camera because I call this trifold week, and my husband knows it as Shannon goes and steals all of our takeout menus week, and if I'm looking for the Chinese food menu, it's probably on her desk because he saw me walking down the stairs to do our live session, and he was like, "Oh, it must be trifold week. You just took all of our takeout menus," and I said, "Yes, it is." So that's what this week is. But again, career relevancy in the field. My husband is also a graphic designer. He came home today and he said, "Oh, so I'm lucky I got home on time. I had a rush job just as I was about to leave. I had to make a trifold." And that's exactly what we're doing tonight. So I said, you and me both. All right, so whether you meet the mechanical specifications on your brochure, that will make or break your project. There are several measurements to keep in mind when laying out your brochure this week. The terms that follow are typically used when going to a printer for a quote, and it's important to understand what they mean and where they are in your layout program. So we have flat size. The flat size of the brochure is the finished size of the page after it's been trimmed, but before it's been folded. So it comes off of that big printing press. Remember how I was explaining this last week? I'm like, it goes through and they lay down the cyan, they lay down the magenta, they lay down the yellow, they lay down the black, and it gets to the end on these big sheets. And everything's all printed and ready to go. Next, it goes over to the cutting machine. So it goes in to the cutter, and the big blades come down, and it cuts it to its flat size. That's the flat size. After it cuts your where the bleed is. So let me open up week 2 assessment. That'll be the easiest to show where the cut is. Open up that PDF. So this is where it cuts. Let me see if I can get some. Oi. Nope, I want my comment bar. Comments. Here we go. All right. So this right here, this is where it cuts. From here all the way down to here, and then from here to here, from here, scroll it back up. A little faster. I should have zoomed out. Come on. I don't know why it scrolled down so fast, and now going back up, it's like, nope. I am so slow. There we go. From here to here, and here to here. So when it gets back from the cutter, you can kind of see my lines there. This area in here is all that will be left. That is your flat size. So After it goes from the cutter, it then goes to a big folding machine where it's fed in, and based on the type of fold that you're going to do, which is right here. Here's all your different sort of folds that you have. Again, they call this one a concertina fold. We call it a Z fold. This one they call the 6-page standard gate fold. We call it a barrel fold. There's all different types of folds. So based on what kind of fold you have told the printer you want, that's input into the machine, and it comes out folded, and that's your finished size. So that's the size the brochure is once it's folded. And it's the size that's given to the printer when the brochure is being quoted and when it's being printed to ensure that it's folded correctly. So it's also important to specify how to fold the brochure, which is the front panel, what should be on the back, and so on and so forth. There are several folds available, and they vary depending on the number of panels and the folds in your brochure. So example, a Z fold is where the paper looks like a Z when it's folded. A barrel fold is when the right side is folded inward first and the left panel is folded over on top. So folded in, this one folded on top. That is the type of fold that we are going to be doing this week, is the barrel fold. Honestly, it's the one that I see the most. And every single menu I have here consists of a barrel fold that I'm going to show you, which shows you how common it is. All right, so then we have the bleed. So again, the bleed's where we extend color or images beyond the finished size to ensure that the brochure doesn't have that white rim where color or images should be. And a typical bleed is 1/8 of an inch, but it can also vary based on the paper, the press, or the project. So you would want to consult your printer on every project to make sure that you have set the bleed correctly. But again, for this project, we're going to use that 1/8 of an inch. And then margins. Most of us are familiar with margins from our word processing programs. I say most of us. I don't think I was familiar with the margin for a word processing program until after I was familiar with the margin in a graphic design program. In the world of graphic design, though, those margins are used for something a little different. There's something called the live area within our projects, and the live area is the space that a vendor deems safe for vital information. Because presses and people are not perfect. You know, the paper, remember I said it's being fed into those ginormous machines with big, blades coming down. It might not feed into that entirely straight. Or the fold, when it goes into that big folder, it might not fold perfectly. But a vendor will guarantee that any information that is within your live area will be present on the final output, or they'll redo it on their dime. However, if you don't have it within the live area, within the margin, that'll be redone on your dime. So you gotta keep that in mind. So that's why those margins are so important. In the world of graphic design, margins are often set to the live area or comfortable distance from the edge of the project, whichever is greater. Then we have a gutter. So a gutter can be several things. It's the space between 2 pages in a magazine spread when you have the magazine open on a desk or something in front of you. The space between 2 columns is also called a gutter. So we have columns set up and gutters set up in our trifold. And the space between the panels of our brochure, again, also referred to as a gutter. So in brochure design, how do you know how big to make the gutters? It's actually pretty simple. It's a pretty simple math equation. You're going to take the size of your left and right margin and then double it. So if you had a margin that you set to 0.375 on the left and right, you would make a margin that's 0.75. This ensures that the entire panel is centered, and it also allows for slight differences in finished panel size due to paper weight. So once you've begun to build your brochure to spec, your work isn't complete. If the printer does not get the proper files in the proper manner, they will not be able to complete your job. And that is those packaged InDesign files. So here's our prompt for this week. Brochures can be very powerful marketing tools if they're handled in the correct way. It's important that your approach to the brochure maintains any corporate branding that's been established while making an impression on the target audience. What does that mean? Well, last week in our assignment, we used our color scheme that we came up with, and we colored our logos. And we had a 3-color logo. And then we applied that 3-color logo to our poster as part of our branding. Now this week, we're going to again apply that logo to our brochure. But there are other things that we did last week. We had a poster. In that poster, we made some design decisions. We chose fonts. We chose to follow a color palette. So if I take the poster and lay it on the table, and then I take my brochure that I made this week and I lay that on the table next to it, I want this to look like a cohesive, corporately branded marketing campaign. I want them to look like they go together. So that's something you need to keep in mind when you're doing your design this week, that you've already started branding this company. You've come up with font choices. You've come up with a color scheme. Those sorts of decisions should follow you into this week. You don't want to reinvent the wheel with your brochure and have the two of them side by side and they don't look like they belong together. So again, here's some brochure tips to help you begin your project. Number 1, know who your target audience is. Sit there and think about this for a second. What's their age? What might their income be? What role do they have in their family? Are they primarily male? Are they primarily female? Does that not even matter? What might be important to them? Spend considerable time designing the cover of your brochure. It's the reason a potential client will pick it up or pass it by. Have you ever stopped when you've been on a road trip? I go on lots of road trips. I hate to fly, so I go on lots of road trips. And have you ever stopped, the side of the road, the welcoming centers in different states when you're going through, like off the interstate? And they have those big walls of all the brochures of the things to do in the area. And you might grab a couple of brochures if that's the place that you're staying. Why did you grab those brochures? Because something about the cover obviously stood out to you. And that's all we saw until we opened up the brochure. So keep that in mind this week. Your brochure could end up on a wall with hundreds of other brochures. You want it to stand out. You want it to, be at, the leader of the class, the, top of, I don't know. You can use whatever you want for an analogy. It's too late for me to come up with analogies. But you know what I mean? You definitely want it to stand out. You want people to pick yours up. Put first things first. Lead with strength and then give details. This one's important. We need to use style sheets this week. Those style sheets are going to maintain our consistency throughout our design. This is one of the things I will be grading you on. I will be grading you on whether or not you've used your style sheet. Remember, there should be no more than 3 type sizes and 2 fonts used in your brochure. Keep it simple. Remember when we go back to the crap principles and everything else, and then the KISS principle, keep it simple. Keep your colors consistent and few. Again, no more than 2 or 3 colors. Stick with your color palette that you've created. Employ the big 4 design principles to create focal points, hierarchy, and unity within your design. Think of what should stand out first. What do you want people to read first? What do you want them to read second? What do you want them to read third, and so on. Use a grid to keep structure on your page. Also, we have some improved photos this week, so we're going to download those. You need to incorporate at least 3 photos, your final logo and that color palette, paragraph styles, and all of the text from this text document. So I'm going to download these 2. And here's your project specifications. Your final flat size will be 11.875 by 9. It will be two-sided, and your folds will be 4 by 9. Your margins will be 0.325. Your bleed size will be 0.125, and your color space will be CMYK. So there are 2 ways to put this together this week. I am not going to be picky on which way you want to put it together. In the week's readings and videos, there's a demonstration that shows you how to set it up using 6 separate pages for the panels. Personally, and again, some personal choice, I don't really like setting my trifolds up that way, so I am going to show you how I set my trifolds up. And it's as 2 pages with 3 columns set up. So that's how I am going to do it. Here are your pre-press requirements. All images, you need to convert them to CMYK. They need to be placed at the correct resolution for print, which is 300 dpi. Images should not be scaled below 80%, and they definitely should not be scaled higher than 120%. Anything that I see that is scaled over 120% will be flagged as being low res. So you need to be aware of the sizes of images, and there's a vast difference in the sizes of images that you have downloaded when you are picking your images. You need to convert all your spot colors to CMYK. You have to have bleeds correctly implemented, margins and gutters properly positioned, and your document needs to be packaged for print. So that means you do file package in InDesign. That's going to give me an INDD file, an IDML file, and your PDF file. Also, your fonts and images will be in there. All of the things that I need when I open your file so things do not come up missing. That's what needs to be submitted this week. You're going to make sure to name your file appropriately based on our naming conventions, and you're also going to export a press quality PDF that includes those crop and bleed marks. And again, remember from last week, that's different than print quality. You have to tell InDesign if you haven't set a preset to include crop and bleed marks. And then package that file. Again, make sure there are no errors in the report. If you see errors, you need to fix them. Place your press quality PDF into that package folder, and then zip that folder and upload the zip folder. Best practice, always keep your native files. You're going to need them for your portfolio or capstone class. All right, so that was a whole lot of information. But again, I want to do a lot of show and tell this week because this is really important to understand. So hopefully it's dark here. It's nighttime here. So hopefully you guys can see. And you don't need to read what the brochure says, but I just wanted to make sure that you can kind of see the folds and how they're set up. So when I see this on the wall of brochures, here's my front cover. And I'm going to grab it. And sometimes it's easier for me to kind of show it this way because things can look a little bit backwards, I understand, in the video or in the camera. So here's my front panel. And here is how my page is set up. My front panel is all the way on the right side of the page. So we usually read left to right, but we set things up differently for a brochure with the barrel fold. The front cover, right-hand side of the page. The back of the brochure, when it's folded, so front, back, the back of the brochure is located directly to the left of that front panel. So front, back. The part that folds in, so the inside fold, that is our third panel. So the way it starts is inside fold from left to right, back, front. And I'm going to show you how to set this up in InDesign. But, when I first started creating trifolds many moons ago, I used to have to go and take a blank piece of paper, fold it myself, and label it and say, all right, so my front panel's here, this would be my back. This is the inside. All right, and then on the inside, it goes boom, boom, boom. The inside or side 2 is actually pretty standard. It just goes left to right. But again, you want to think of how somebody is going to interact with your brochure. So they grab it. And again, we have the front, and they're like, oh, all right, 10 Cousins Pizza, which they have very good pizza. And so they might look at the cover, and then they're probably going to flip it around to the back. And, you know, maybe there's a little bit of an about you back there. When they open it up, this is one of the little things that people don't always think about. But when they open it up, that inside back panel is laying up right up against the first panel of the inside. So you don't, like, if you were going to have something span 2 columns, you know, which you can to break your design, you might not want to do that from the left-hand panel here, and then it breaks and it runs in and you can't see it because this is folded on top. If you're going to break the panels, you probably want to go on the inside panel into this one. So again, think of how somebody's going to kind of interact with your piece. Also, they're going to open it up, and these are going to be together. So, you know, because this is a takeout menu, this one's actually laid out pretty well. You know, it starts off with starters, salads, and then we open it up and we get to, you know, their pizzas, which are important, you know, their big thing, and it's kind of blocked out in a different color, and then sandwiches and more. And then, you know, they have a little like, oh, we also do this sort of stuff on that inside back panel. So again, not completely part of the menu, but, you know, it's in the same, you know, font. You can kind of see that. I mean, even though it's kind of hard to read what this says, you can see that the fonts match. You can see that the sub-headlines match. You can see that the body copy matches. Just by that hierarchy. I can see how crappy it looks on my screen too. This isn't the best camera. But again, you know, you can see where that layout comes in, keeping the information consistent. So that's a really good menu. And then even though this one it's just a printout, which this kills me because they have a really good logo and they actually have really good colors. And for some reason, when they opened up their second location up the street from me, they printed these on a LaserJet printer and handed them out. And I was like, really? Come on. You know, you guys actually have some good design here. Your poor graphic designer who put all this effort in. You guys printed on like a black and white laser printer. But again, you can see the same thing. Front cover, on the back, the kind of like about us. And then when you open it up, it's got the starters again, flatbreads. But this is what they've done here. See, they broke the grid going from one column into the other, and they did it just like I said, where they realized where the fold was going to be, so it wasn't running from here to underneath that fold. So again, even though they have such bad printing, really good design. It makes me feel bad for their poor graphic designer because, you know, they just did that to save a couple of bucks. They took the file. All right, and then this is the last one, which out of the 3 I'm showing you, this one has the full bleed. So this one clearly had color, but you can see it's kind of, let me go as close as I can. You can almost see that tiny lip down at the bottom where they tried to get it to the bottom to fake a bleed because they didn't want to pay for a bleed. Again, pay the extra $1, you know? So this one, full bleed, really well done. We have the, you know, menu on the front, menu on the back, and that's just because their menu, very extensive. And even though this is an 11 by 17 trifold, this is our poster this week, right here, turned into a trifold. You know, some restaurants, they have that much stuff. You know, again, but a really good design. And they implemented on the back just little snippets of their most popular items. And then you can find the full shebang right on the inside. Again, three really good trifold designs. I had somewhere in here a really bad one for this restaurant up the street, and I kind of feel bad sometimes showing them, but again, it happened. And you probably got a takeout menu too, and you're like, I don't even know where to start with this. But this is actually a trifold that my husband created for his job, and it's not the finished printed piece, but it's the mock-up he had to show the client to show them what the printed piece would look like. So it's a really deconstructed trifold where, again, I think that that's easy to kind of show you guys how he set it up using the 2-page the same way I'm going to show you. So laying it down, because when you do it like this and you look at it in the screen, it looks like it goes left to right, but it's not because everything's transposed with the camera. So I kind of have to lay it down flat like this, cover, back panel, inside back panel, and then page 2 goes left, right, inside. And then what he did to show the client is he printed the 2 pages just on a LaserJet printer. He did his folds and put them together as a mock-up of the 2 pages. But again, this is something that you can do when you're done with your brochure this week. Even if you just have a bad printer at home, a really crappy inkjet printer, who cares? You know, print out side 1 and side 2, lay them down flat on top of each other, fold them up, and make sure that it works the way you want it to work before you submit it, because sometimes you just have to get your hands on it and take a look at it that way. You know, when we're looking at it on the screen, we're like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense, until you print it out, fold it up, and you actually start to interact with your piece. So, you know, again, that's why even just getting out a piece of paper and folding it in threes will work. Let me see, I should have, we'll use my notes from my world history course that I teach with my high schoolers on. We were learning about Big Ben, but that's okay. We'll use this to print, to show. So take your piece of paper and, you know, lay it down landscape, not portrait. And you're going to take, starting at the left-hand side, take roughly a third and fold it in. And then take this part and fold it on top, the right-hand side. Right? Yeah. Wait, no. I'm doing it backwards to show you. Hold on. Take this part, fold it in. Take this part, fold it on top. All right. And then you have your front, your back. Open it up. 1, 2, 3. So again, you can kind of see, and let me go back into my slides for a second. Again, you can kind of see how you fold that in, fold that on top. That's our barrel fold. So hopefully this demo, you know, kind of explains it a little bit. And also, you know, go into your drawer at home. You probably have a whole bunch of takeout menus, and you can kind of deconstruct those and see, you know, match them up to the folds that you see. And chances are good, you're probably going to see a lot of barrel folds. It just seems to be the most common one. That's the type of fold we always did when I worked at the print shop I worked at. We always did a barrel fold. And so we set it up, again, right to left as opposed to left to right. And the new people who came on, you always ended up with a couple of them who would start it left to right, and we were like, ooh, we're going to need you to fix that. You know, just take the information and shift it around, and this is how you need to set it up. And it always confused them until we would print it out and have them fold it, and they would go, oh, all right, that makes sense then. Thank you. So again, we'll set it up in InDesign tonight, so that way you guys are sure you know how to set it up. If you want to follow the demo in lynda.com, in the week 3 readings and videos tab, that's fine as well. At the end of the day, I just want to make sure that you've put together a correct assignment that's going to fold correctly for your printer. All right, so let's get into InDesign. All right, so I already downloaded my approved photos and my text document. What you are going to want to do first, and you know, again, I like to set things up just so that way, you know, I have everything all set for what it is that I'm doing. So let's name this week 3 assignment in my week 3 folder. Open that up, and I'm going to grab from my downloads, kayak photos, and my aqua text. Unzip that. Okay, sure. And I'll delete that. And then I'm also going to open up my text document. Go, and let's take a look at these photos. All right, so there's something that I want to point out right away. Let's look at the file sizes here. Brochure image 1 through brochure image 7. Each of these images is almost 2 megabytes. So you know those are some big images. Kayak 1 through kayak 7. Only one of them is even 1 megabyte, and the rest of them are under a megabyte. So if you are looking for some images that you can use throughout the entire background of your piece, are you going to pick from this selection or this selection? You're going to pick from this selection. Be aware of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up these 7 first, and we'll look at some of the file sizes. Give it a second for Photoshop to launch. All right, so first things first, I'm going to change this to CMYK. Hit OK. And then I want to check the image size. 300 dpi. It's 14 by 9.33. Nice big image. So I'll hit OK. I'm going to save it and close it. I'm going to do the same thing for this one. Change it to CMYK. Check the image size. I want to make sure it's 300 dpi. It is. Hit OK. Save it. And close it. Same thing with this little fella. CMYK. Check the image size. 300 dpi. Perfect. And save it and close it. I'm just going to go, whoops, right down, checking all of them. Save it and close it. Save, close. One thing about this image that I want to point out. When the photo was taken, you can see where the focus is, and it's actually nice and crisp on this wave back here. But when it gets to him, he's really blurry and out of focus. It's not that you can't use this picture. I just don't know if this is the best choice to be, you know, a full-size, full panel image because of that. So just kind of keep that in mind on this photo. It's one of those things that I notice about this photo is he's really fuzzy. See? And last one. All right, next I'm going to open up that second batch. So again, these ones are not as big. So let's take a look. And you can already see the difference when we're starting to open them. See how they don't even open up as large? So again, I'm going to change it to CMYK. The image size on this one is only 4 inches by 5 inches, and the resolution's only 200 dpi. Once I make this, 300 dpi and unclick that resample, it goes down to being 3.7 inches high by 2.6 inches. So again, small photo. Let's look at this one. This one, again, only 200 dpi, and it's only 4 by 4.8. Once I resize it to 300 dpi, it goes down to under 4 inches high. And you have to look, the size of our piece, it's almost 9 inches. That's 3 times the size. So to make this, to make this image be the entire background, let's say of the cover, you would be at 300%, which means it would be low res. Same thing with this one. CMYK. It's only 4 inches high at 180 dpi. Now at 300 dpi, it's only 2.5 inches high. This cannot be used as the background of your piece. It's too small. This one as well. This one's only 2.25 inches at 200 dpi. Once I make it 300, 1.5 inches high. That's a small image. This one, once I make it 300 dpi, under 2 inches high. Same thing with these guys. Same thing's gonna happen. Only 1.5 inches high. And last but not least, this guy. Now he's under 3 inches. And you may be saying to yourself, well, why did they give us these images that are clearly too small? Because you need to learn to be able to distinguish when a client gives you, 14 different images. You need to figure out which ones are going to work and which ones aren't going to work. You got to go through and you got to look at what you have, what you've been given. All right, so the next thing I like to do is I do like to open up the text document, and I like to start to read over the copy and kind of pre-set it up in Microsoft Word, which might sound a little weird, but again, we're using those paragraph styles in this. So you're going to have 3 paragraph styles. You're going to have a headline, a subheadline, and body copy. Those are your 3 paragraph styles with your 3 different point sizes. Remember, no more than 3 point sizes, no more than 2 fonts. That's where this is all coming in. So if you go into your Word file, you can actually use like the title, the headline, headline 1, headline 2, or, just leave it at normal for the body copy. And you can just start to set up some of that hierarchy in Word. So when you're copying and pasting the text out of Word into InDesign, which is exactly what you need to do this week, do not re-typeset anything. Just copy and paste it out of Word into InDesign. And the school gives you Word for free, by the way. So let me just go back into our home screen. For those of you who might not have downloaded it yet, if you go into Shark, and I always have a hard time finding it, but the easiest way I have found to find where you can get it is to scroll all the way down to the sitemap and then go, sometimes I have to do like a search for 365. There we go. Under student information, installing Microsoft 365, it tells you how to go about getting it. So make sure you do that if you don't have Microsoft Word yet on your machines. It's free. You should definitely take advantage of it. But again, you can start to kind of preset that up. And you'll notice that it says these are the things that belong on the front cover. Logo, that is your colorized logo that you made in week 2. That belongs on the cover. Kayak Tours Sales and Service belongs on the front cover. This can go on either the front or the back cover. So remember, turn on my thing for a second. Camera, same thing. All right. Front cover, back cover. That's where that goes, either on the front or when you flip it over on the back, which translates into either the right-hand panel or the center panel of page 1. This information. And then we have our other required copy. All right. So I can see that I have a section that's called Tour Frequently Asked Questions. That's going to get a headline. What should I bring on my tour? That kind of seems like a subheadline. Water and drink, sunglasses, hat, and footwear. Okay. Should I reserve a double kayak or 2 kayaks? Another question. That seems like a subheadline. Well, as a rule, blah, 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 blah. All right, leave that as normal font. Do I need any prior experience? Another question. That seems like a subheadline. All right, no, you don't. Then we have kayak rental info. Also seems like a headline. All rentals are first come, first served for the date, blah, 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 blah. And then we have, 1 hour is this, half hour, full day, weekdays. Some people like to do this as a subheadline. Some people like to leave it in the body copy. Some people like to leave it in the body copy, but make it bold so it stands out. Different things you can do. Then we have some adventures here. So we have custom adventures. Aqua Excursion strives to meet our needs and desires of all of our customers. Experienced and talented guides leave our fun and adventurous multi-day trips. And then you can see where they say, we offer a variety of custom tours, including but not limited to kayak camping adventures, full moon paddle adventures, and our very own private adventure tours. Descriptions of each follow. So this is the title or the headline. Each adventure, subheadline. And think of proximity. This information should all stay together. Then we have an About Us area. Title, we're simply the best, most complete kayak sporting center, and then all about them. Then there are a couple of different tour packages. So a tour package for every taste. Seems like a headline to me. And then underneath each of their tour packages. So tour package, subheadline. Guided wildlife tours are some of the highlights of the tour. Kayak lessons, wildlife viewing, okay. Ocean adventure tour, subheadline. Dolphin watching, subheadline. Whale watching, subheadline. So again, just kind of doing this, it kind of gives you a visual when you're bringing the information back into InDesign. So it just doesn't look like one big block of text when you're bringing it in. It kind of starts to give some shape and to give some direction to your brochure when you start to set it up. Again, you don't need to reinvent the wheel here, but you definitely need to have some direction going into this. And that takes planning. All right, so let's go back into our assignment, see how we're going to set this up in InDesign. All right, so my final flat size is 11.875 by 9. So I'm going to set up my document at that size. Create new. Want to be in print. I'm going to grab the dimensions, 11.875 by 9. I want it to be, I don't want facing pages, and I also want it to be set up landscape. So make sure you unclick facing pages. I need 2 pages. I need 3 columns. My margin is 0.325. So down at my margins on all 4, 0.325, make sure it's locked. Now for my gutter, I need to figure out my gutter. My gutter is 0.325 times 2. So get out your calculator if you have to. 0.325 times 2 is 0.65. That's going to be my gutter. I have a bleed. 0.125 on all 4 sides. Don't worry about slug. Double check everything and create. Now, I have set up my own workspace in InDesign many moons ago, so my workspace might look a little bit different than your workspace. It might have sent you, after the update, I noticed on my other computer, it sent me to Essentials, which kind of look like this, and personally, I didn't really like it, I'm not gonna lie, but there is an option that says Essentials Classic, and I had actually changed it to that on my other machine, and I was like, all right, at least that looks a little bit better, because I noticed in Essentials, you lost the taskbar up here, and I seriously sat here on the other machine for a good, I don't know, 15 minutes going, have I lost my mind? Or where did my taskbar go since the upgrade? And then I cursed out Adobe and I said, why do you do this to us, Adobe? And then I realized Essentials Classic, and it came back and I said, oh, thank goodness. So yeah, so you can, that might feel a little bit more familiar to you, and you might want to change it to that. If not, keep it the way it is. It's really up to you. And then again, you can always create your own workspaces, and save them after if you figure out something that really works for you, definitely save it. This looks like a mess, honestly, and it kind of is, but it's a workspace that works for me. So here we are. It's the Shannon mess of a workspace, but it works for me. All right, so I've got my 2 pages, front and back. First things first, I'm going to save my file using my naming convention. Copy that. Do a save as. And I'm going to go navigate over to week 3 to my assignment folder that I created and change first and last to my first and last name. You can always use your first initial if you have a really long name like me. Hit save. And this is going to be my first big project that I've done in InDesign since the upgrade. I know I did a demo last week, but honestly, I haven't had a chance to really play around in the new upgrade. So if I run into some snags, I have to Google something, please bear with me. Also, was it week 1 or week 2? It might have been last week, where something weird was happening in my Illustrator. I restarted my machine and I cleared my cache and that went away. So that was kind of bizarre. I was getting, if you may recall, some weird boxes that were just like kind of tracking. It looked like multiple boxes. It might have been week 1. But my restart fixed that. If you find weird things are happening, not only did I upgrade all of my Adobe programs, I also upgraded to Mojave. And I was like, well, let's just bite the bullet on this and see see how we can destroy all of humanity. But if you find that you're kind of running into those problems as well, and it's been a minute since you've, completely shut your machine down, emptied your trash, done all of those things, definitely try to do that. I find that ends up being your saving grace more often than not. All right, so I've got this saved. What I want to do before I get started is I want to label my panels so I know where things go. And that is never a good sign when you just turn on the type tool and it spins. Whew. All right, so let's see. Center that. It's my color palette though. Like, this is my favorite workspace, which does not include having my colors open. Or maybe they are. Oh, there they were. All right. So this is my front panel. This is my back panel. This is, I always call it my inside front panel. The one that folds in, you can kind of put that too, folds in. Oh man, getting a total lag with the type tool. Never good, never good. I'm gonna have to restart again after tonight's lecture, and I did restart right before we started tonight. Then side 2, this will be easy. Left. Center. And right. But I also always like to make myself a little note, just as a reminder. This will be under the fold from side 1. Just a reminder that you're not going to see these 2 panels because this part is going to be folded over when you first open it up. So you'll see this one butting up next to this panel on the printed piece. So again, sometimes it's easier to kind of print out that paper to get that and label it to get that visual. So if you take your 3 pieces of paper and you fold it and you write front panel, right across it, front panel, back panel, inside front panel, folds in, left, center, right, and you fold it all up and you open it and you see how it works before you start designing, it's really going to make your life a lot easier. All right, so let's just kind of dissect what's going on here. This is my bleed line, so anything that I want to bleed, which would be my background images, you always want those background images to bleed, that needs to extend to the bleed line. This is my safe zone. Right here. And what you can even do, which this will be the first time I kind of show it this way. Where are my pages? Here we go. If you go to your master page and just make, a little box that's maybe 10% gray or something. If you have trouble ever, that just to kind of designate your safe zone. If you just need a visual, just make sure that you delete it when you're done. But pages. Okay, get me back to page 1. What the heck? It changed how that worked. All right. There we go. I've noticed. Oh, maybe it. Oh, it wasn't giving me. That's weird. It wasn't giving me the scroll, but must need to pull this down. Yeah, I'm not even happy with my workspace in this. I'm going to classic. Let's see. All right, here we go. Pages, that's fine. Layers, color, stroke. All right, I'll stick with classic. Essentials classic. Driving myself nuts there on my own workspace. So this might give you like a little bit of a better visual where your safe area is if you need that visual to make sure that you don't go outside of it. All right, so I like to work on my front panel first. You know, pick a nice image to place there. And what you also might want to be aware of is it's not going to fold perfectly when it gets to the printer, you know, perfectly on the inside of each gutter. But sometimes if you kind of just drop a guide to the middle of the gutter, you can get a good idea of where those folds will fall. So, you know, again, just kind of give yourself a little ruler, you know, where the front panel's going to start and the back panel, you know, the front panel ends and the back panel starts, you know, things like that. Let's see. I can do things a little, I usually kind of do the same design each time I teach this course. I'm going to do things a little differently tonight. Let's change it up a bit. Draw my box. I'm going to have an image go from the front to back, so when you're kind of, you know, folding it back and forth, you see the same image. We'll see how that works. This could be a good one. Is that one? And I'm going to start to, I have my logo I have to place. So I kind of want this sunshine that's already happening somewhere in the center so I can place my logo on top of it, because again, I'm thinking through the whole design. And then I kind of want this to fade out over here, so I'm going to use that gradient feather tool and just kind of, whoops, wrong way, feather it towards where the fold will be. So it's not a harsh end, you know, like here's where the image ends, you know, I'm going to kind of feather that in. And then, let me see, what's my library? Do I even have my libraries open? No. And add in my colors, which I believe are my logo colors, because I think that's from this time. Let me double check my logo from last week. I do this so many times that I have so many different versions of the same exact color schemes, but you know, definitely good to double check. So I got a blue, a light blue, and an orange. Blue, light blue, orange. All right, perfect. So I'm going to grab, and I'm going to add this color to swatches, add this color to swatches, and add this color to swatches. And, oh good, it added them in at CMYK. Double check that it does that. And the reason why it did that, I believe, is because I created those swatches in Illustrator. But sometimes if you create an Adobe color palette and load that into your CC library and then load that into your swatches, they might come over as RGB. So just double check how they came over each time. And I might do, orange in the background. Send that to the back. Make sure it goes far enough behind the photo that where that blend is stands out. And then within that, maybe do kind of a lighter tint of it, or maybe even a lighter tint of the blue. We'll see. I might change that up. All right. So I've kind of got a little bit of a color scheme going there. Maybe I'll do the blue. I feel like the two blues together goes a little bit better. It's too much orange on the page. There we go. All right, and then I need to place my logo. So I got to go back to week 2 because that's where my logo resides. Now, in your poster for week 2, you should have cropped your logo and saved a cropped version of it. So you're going to want to place your logo from there. So 2 ways you can do that. You can do a Command D or File Place and just place it directly. You can draw the box for it, place it within that box. Kind of a couple of different ways. Drag it in from the Finder. All different ways you can do it. I'm going to draw the box and then do a Command D, which is File Place. And I need to go back to week 2 to my assessment, my links, and there's my Aqua 3 color photo that's cropped. Grab it from there. And then proportionally place this. So I need to, if you know the quick keys, you can use the quick keys or go to Object, Fitting, and you want to fit content proportionally. Then again, kind of be aware of how your logo looks on the background. I want to make sure that's not getting lost on this photo. Because I got orange and there's some orange in there. So trying to get it nicely into that little sunburst that's happening there. And go back into Word and let's see. On the front cover, I need the logo. I've got that done. So I like to strike things out when they're finished. Next, I have Kayak Tours Sales and Service. And again, going back to what we did last week, you started coming up with a color palette and fonts. So you're going to want to look and see, what fonts did I use during my post when I created my poster. And again, look for that consistency. So let me open up my poster I only showed you how to place the photo last week. All right, so I can kind of come up with any fonts for this week. We'll pretend that I use those fonts, the fonts I come up with today. We'll pretend that I used those last week. So again, we're creating paragraph styles here. I am going to use a serif font and a sans serif font. My serif font is going to be my headlines and my subheadlines. My sans serif font is going to be my headline and my subheadlines. My serif font, the one with the feet, is going to be my body copy. Because my logo is using it's really using Helvetica, but you can get, if you don't have Helvetica on your machine, you can get away with using Arial. I'm going to use Helvetica. And it probably shouldn't be stated, but I will say it anyways. Please do not copy my design exactly as how I do it. You won't get full points this week if you do. You need to come up with your own design. All right, so I'm going to use Helvetica New 95 Black in Aqua Blue 2, my darker blue. And that's probably going to be my headline. And probably, let's draw a text box. you know, you can't get it right off the bat how you want it to be. And you'll notice, I want to point this out as well, kind of how I set this up. So I drew with a rectangle a box in the back with my color, and then I placed my text box on top of it, and it's offset, so the text is not going to run directly into the edge over here, and it's not going to run directly into the edge over here, and it's not going to run right up to the top. I didn't colorize my text box. I'm using two different boxes, and that's how I'm going to achieve that effect, where it gives that nice padding and that nice space that you want. So let's grab one of those headlines. I'm going to put on the back page the About Us. So grab my About Us and test it out in this color. And let's test out a font. Let's try 24 type. And I'm going to set that as my paragraph style. So I'm going to do new paragraph style. And it's going to name it paragraph style 1. I'm going to double click. And I'm going to name that headline. You can see the basic character formats. It's a Helvetica New, 95 black, 24 point. Character colors, the aqua blue 2. And I'm going to hit OK. So I'm going to use that for my headline. And then, again, you know, just kind of see what works going next. And I'm probably going to use Kayak Tour Sales and Service. That's probably going to be in my headline font. So I'm going to copy that in. Draw my text box. Again, staying within my margin, you can see here. Just copy and paste it in. Click on headline. Bring that down. And I'm just going to bump Sales and Service to its own line. And I want that, you know, that nice proximity kind of near this. All right, so I've used that. So I'm going to cross it out. And then I've got the address. I'm going to add this. I'm going to add this down here. And maybe draw a little box within this area. My colors. No, where's my swatches? This I'm probably going to make orange, and instead I'm going to bring the opacity down to 50, 70, 80%. Let's see. Might have to keep messing with that. Make that white. And again, preference, I always like to make the phone number a little bit bigger and the URL a little bit bigger, because I feel like the first thing that they're going to do to get information is either call you or go on your website, right? I mean, that's what you guys do. You don't immediately just go drive to a place unless if you've decided, like, yeah, we're definitely doing this. So again, I like to, you know, call or check out the website first. So I want to make that information more prominent. And I want this to be vertically centered inside of this text box. So I'm going to go to Object, Text Frame Options. And where it says vertical justification, it defaults to top. I'm going to change that to centered. And you can kind of preview and see how that'll center it automatically right in there. And then to make sure I've got it nice and centered, I select both the text box and the rectangle behind it. Go to my alignment, which is not open. And is located under. I always forget where they put it because I usually have it open. Objects and layout. There we go. Align. Oh, I had it open. Whoops. I'm going to center it and center it. There we go. So make sure it's nice and centered. looks good. And you can see I kind of broke my paragraph style there because I just wanted this information to stand out a little bit differently. All right, next, again, strike that out because I've used it. So I'm going to go back to my About Us section, and I'm going to deal with that, finishing that up, because I kind of added that to my left page. So I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to add in my text, and you'll see it followed my headline. And I don't want this obviously to be Helvetica new 95 black 24 point. That's really insane for body copy. And this is what this is. This is body copy. So I need to go into my paragraph styles. I need to create a new style. So for my body copy, like I was saying, I want to use a serif font. And I'm going to use black type because it's going to be smaller. It's probably going to be 12-point type. And I want it to be easily readable. So let me find a good serif font here. Let's see what I don't use serif fonts all that much. Oh, Gaudi makes a nice font though. I do like Gaudi. So I'm going to change it to Gaudi. I want it to be left justified. I also want, under paragraph, I want there to be some spacing in between each of the paragraphs, a little space underneath. So I am going to go to this option right here where it shows that there's a space after, and I'm just going to add in some spacing. And I'm going to change the font color to black because, again, for readability, black is just easier to read for body copy. And I'll set that up like this. And then I feel as though my headline should have a little bit of space underneath it as well. So I'm going to go into paragraph and I'm going to add some space in there. And under my paragraph style, see how it adds that little plus sign? I'm going to right click and I'm going to redefine the style. So from now on, when I use my headline and I have a hard enter afterwards, that added space is in there. And double check this. And then you'll notice, again, in the doc file, this is set up with an italics. So it seems as though they want that to stand out a little bit. So I'm going to change just this line to, I don't know if I have a bold italic version of Gaudi. Let me see on this machine. Let's see. Maybe I don't. I'll just change it to italics. But I'm also going to center this line, and I'm going to make it just a little bit larger so it stands out more. But again, be aware of hyphens. And if you hit Shift Enter, you don't get that hard enter where it adds in that extra space. Shift Enter will just move it to the next line. And you can kind of go through and try to fix the rag, the right rag here, so you don't have so many hyphens. Some of them are fine, but like when there's like 2 letters, I try to. There we go. And that's kind of nicely centered this as well. And now that I'm thinking about it, I think I want this on the back panel. Maybe? Yeah. Yeah, I think I want this on the back panel, not on the inside back panel. So I'm gonna move this over here, center it, and then I don't want to lose that background image, so I'm gonna turn this to maybe 90%. So it's starting to bleed through, but again, it's not interfering with my type. That's one of the things you want to make sure of. Sure it's not interfering with the type. And make sure, oh, there we go. All right. Line that up right on my, there we go. All right, perfect. So I have the About Us section done. So again, over in Word, I'm gonna cross that out. Then I have, I kind of have a decision to make. What I have left for copy is I have tour frequently asked questions. And then I have all my different adventures. I have custom adventures with the 3 adventures, but then I have a tour package for every taste, which again, tour packages, custom adventures, they're kind of similar things. So I want to set those up together on page 2, which leaves me with tour frequently asked questions and kayak rental information. That's what I'm going to put on my inside front panel. So I'm going to make a copy of this because I still like that background. Look, make a copy of actually this whole thing. Bring it over. I know it's set up the same. And I'll start with my kayak rental info. Whoops, nope, not kayak rental. Tour frequently asked questions. I'm going to copy that in here. And then I'm going to get rid of this line. And I have one more paragraph style I need to make that I haven't done yet, my subheadlines. So I'm going to just bring all of this information in. And that's going to give me an idea of what I have for, for sides left. All right, so what should I bring on my kayak adventure tour? I'm going to leave this at 12-point type, but I'm going to change the font to the Helvetica 95. Where are you? Should be right here. And I'm going to change the color to the same blue that I've been using. Or maybe, we'll see how it does with that second blue. Where's my swatches? This one. Ooh, that's too light. What about orange? Well, the orange actually kind of works. So I'm going to change it to that. I'm going to go into paragraph styles, and I'm going to create a new style. And this one's going to be subheadline. Hit OK. And I want to remove, though, the line, the space underneath. Remove that, and then again, right click, and I'm going to redefine that style. So we're going to bring water, sunglasses, hat, camera, footwear. This information goes together, and I think it would actually go best in a bulleted list, which I can create I'm going to create another style for that. So paragraph style, I'm going to just name this bullets. Go down to bullets and numbering. I want this to be bullet points. Preview this. Left indent, I want there to be maybe 0.25. And then negative 0.25. And I don't want that paragraph spacing after it. So we're going to go to indents and spacing. We're going to remove that space after, set that to 0. There we go, and hit OK. So I've got my bullet points. I'm going to remove that extra return that's there. And subheadline, move the extra return, subheadline. which gives me some more space. And then this is where I'm going to set these up as bullets as well. So because I removed those extra spaces, I might add that spacing back in. Let's take a look. Again, this isn't a, an exact science. You have to kind of work with it on the first one and see how it works. So let's go to indents and spacing. Let's see what it looks like when we add that back in. Space after. That's good. Maybe 2 and hit OK. And then what I'm going to do is I'm manually going to add in the space myself just at this last bullet because it's the only one where the spacing is off. So I'll go in and just kind of manually add it in there. And again, that hyphen, especially in headlines, I want to move that to the next page. To the next line. And I'm going to save it. I've got my first page done. So what I would do is I would continue to design page 2, doing exactly what I'm doing. Bringing in all of the information. As soon as I'm done, crossing it out in Microsoft Word. Before I package and save this, I'm going to go back up into my pages, into my master page, and I'm going to delete out that gray box that's in the background just in case, because you don't want it to show through. Go back into your design. Again, save it again. And then once you have page 1 and page 2 completed, you're going to want to package this, create a PDF with the crop marks and bleed marks, so that way it's all set up for the printer how it needs to go. So we're going to go File, Package. And what that's going to do too, that's going to grab your logo from week 2. It's going to grab all your images from that Kayak Bros folder that you were in. It's going to grab everything that you're using and nothing that you're not using and put it together for you. So week 3, make sure you go into the correct folder. Make sure it's named appropriately. Include a PDF. Again, last week I showed you how to do those crop and bleed marks. Set that up as your preset. Package that. It's okay. If you get an error that says you have an RGB image, that means that one of your images you missed changing that to CMYK in Photoshop. So you're going to need to go back into Photoshop, change it to CMYK, and then update it in InDesign, repackage it. Go into week 3, into your assignment, over to that folder. Make sure you have an IDML file, an INDD file, a PDF file. When you open up that PDF file, you need to see at least the crop marks and bleed marks. If you don't have the registration bars, that's okay. But I'm going to be looking for both of these sets of crop and bleed marks. And page 1, page 2 should definitely be completed. Document fonts should be there, unless if you've used all Adobe Typekit fonts, then it won't package them, but they will be there when I open them up, so that's fine. And you should have a links folder that has all of your links. Zip that folder, again by compressing it. Upload the zip folder to me, and you can do the same thing that you did last week if you want. You can also upload just the PDF on its own, and I can leave you notes on the PDF. All right, let's take a look. We've got about 10 minutes left. Let's take a look at our assessment for week 3. So for this, we need to make the sign for our client. So you can read over the background yourself. I will go over the prompt with you. So for this assessment, you're going to create a sign for the front of the Aqua Excursions building. The sign will be produced from vinyl on plastic, and then it's going to be put over lights so it can easily be seen at night. Since the media is cut vinyl, No gradients or images can be used. All artwork must be vector. And you can only use 2 spot colors. So this is your hint of which logo you should use. And remember, we colorized the logo last week with the CMYK colors. So you're going to need to take those Pantone color swatches, your 2 color swatches that you picked, and reapply the Pantone colors to your logo before you do this. Black is a color, and it will be considered a 3rd color, so you cannot use black. You can only use 2 spot colors. The finished sign is going to be 4 feet by 10 feet, but we're going to scale it down in Illustrator where 1 foot is equal to 1 inch. So we're going to set this up as 4 inches by 10 inches. We're going to utilize a 2 spot color version of our logo that matches our other campaign components, only using 2 colors on the sign's artwork. And then also utilize the Aqua Adventures tagline, Kayak Tours Sales and Service, and their website. So you're only going to put in Kayak Tours Sales and Service and www.aquaexcursions.com. Don't copy and paste this whole line that says and the website, blah, blah, blah. Just use the tagline and just use the website. This is where you're going to have to pay attention to details. The file that you are submitting to me needs to have the fonts turned to outlines. However, in week 4, you need a version that has the type set as type and the fonts turned to outlines. So you need to save a version without the fonts outlined for next week. Remember that. And you're going to save your Illustrator file as a PDF. So let's set this up real quick, just so you can see how to set it up. And when it says 4 by 10, it's 10 inches across, 4 inches high. Or, I mean, when it's done, it'll be 10 feet across and 4 feet high. But you know what I mean? We're scaling it down. So 10 inches, 4 inches, only 1 artboard, and leave it at CMYK. And you'll notice that it says you can't use any images. But if you would like to create an illustration, as long as you create it yourself, please do not use clip art that you found somewhere else. You can incorporate that into your sign. You know, you just can't use a photo because, again, it can only be 2 spot colors. I'm going to go in to week 2 and open up my logo. No, I don't know why my machine is doing this for some reason. It defaulted, which if this happened to you, this happened to me after the upgrade. If you hit a Command I on your AI file, it's going to say opens with Adobe Photoshop as the default app. You definitely don't want that. Change it to Adobe Illustrator and hit change all, and that'll fix that. I don't know why it did that. All right, so again, I'm grabbing, before I grab it, I'm going to take both, here's my 2-color logo. It's the fill color right now is the CMYK color, so I need to make sure that I am using the spot color. Where is my color palette? No, swatches. Where are my swatches? Here we go. All right. So here is my CMYK. I want to colorize this with my Pantone swatch, which is right here. And also my orange, I want to make sure I colorize that with my Pantone swatch as well. And then I'm going to copy this out, close this. I'm not going to save it, and paste my logo in. And I can double check it because in my swatches should show up that this is Pantone. You can see the little dot, Pantone. All right, so they're in my swatches. So again, set that up. I'm not really going to take the time to design this because I'm running low on time here. But I'm just going to show you how to turn those fonts to outline. So I'm going to grab this. And again, think of the fonts that you've been using now in your poster, the fonts that you used in your brochure. Consistency, you want to remain consistent. So if I was really designing this, I wouldn't use Myriad Pro. I would use Helvetica 95 because that's what I used in both of my other things. Maybe my first line is the blue and my second line is the orange. All right, I'm going to do a file save as. Grab the correct naming convention. Not the .pdf though. Go over into week 3. Make a folder, week 3 assessment. Gonna name this first, last, McNamara. And I'm going to put a dash at the end, and I'm going to call it text because I know that this is my version where I have not turned the fonts to outlines. I'm going to save it and hit OK. To turn the fonts to outlines, you're going to select the type with the black arrow tool, and you're going to go up to Type and Create Outlines. And you can see the difference. So if I hit Command Y, see how it looks the same as the logo? If you haven't turned it to outlines, it looks like a type box. Outlines, not outlines. Outlines, not outlines. So you can see what I mean. Hit Command Y again and bring it back to regular view. After turning into outlines, I'm going to do File, Save As again. Save As, not File Save. I'm going to name this one outlines.ai. So I have 2 different versions, 2 different native files with one named text, one named outlines. Then the outlined version, I'm going to save it a 3rd time, and this is going to be my PDF that I'm submitting. So in the drop down, change it to PDF, and what you can do is just take out the dash outlines, and it'll just be the correct naming convention that you need for this week, and save it. It says Save PDF, close it, and then double check your files. So my week 3 assessment, open that up. And if you go to Output, Preview, again, you can see my spot plates. When I click and turn off my spot plates, everything should disappear. If it does not, all right, if you have upgraded to 2019, CC 2019, and your spot plates do not show up, you do not have spot plates. You haven't converted those colors from CMYK to the Pantone. If you have the spot plates and you click this off and one letter is left over here, that letter was never converted to the spot color, to the Pantone color. It's still CMYK. So you got to go back in and start that process over, fixing both of the files and then resaving that PDF. So make sure you're always double checking your work because you don't want to send it off to the printer incorrectly. You're your last check. You're your own proofreader. You need to check your work. And then close that out. But again, if you're still in 2018, you're not going to see the spot plates. You're going to have to rely that you did it correctly and that they're showing up in Illustrator. And then you'll submit that PDF. So again, you should have a version turned to outlines, a version that's still text, and then your PDF. 3 different versions that look exactly the same. Also, if you open up your PDF and you find that you don't get like a box, you can still select your text. That's how you also know that you haven't turned it to outlines. So upload that this week. So again, 2 really big projects this week. You know, that the brochure, obviously the biggest of the 2. You can see it's been a 2-hour live session. I was only able to complete side 1, putting it together with you. So that gives you an idea of the time that needs to be spent on this project this week. Please don't rush it. Again, our multi-session will be tomorrow. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to pop in. And good luck this week. I really look forward to seeing your brochures. This is probably my favorite assignment that everybody does during this course. So I can't wait to see the designs you do. And again, if you have any outstanding work, try to get that in as soon as possible. If you feel like you're going to be late this week, please communicate with me so I know what's going on. That'll save you those missed points. And have fun with this project. This is a great project for your portfolio. It's pieces like this that employers are really looking for. So again, really take the time with this piece this week. And have a great night. Thanks, everyone.